Hi there, welcome to the Sawalha-Adderleys. If you haven't, do subscribe to the channel. It really helps us spread the word, share these films, share these updates with anyone you know. Follow us. The more of us there are, all kind of singing from a similar song sheet of humanity around the situation in Gaza, the stronger our voices will be heard or can be heard. In Coffee Moaning this morning, we were talking about the fact that America and Israel have cooked up a ceasefire, and Hamas are considering this ceasefire. To quote Hamas, they're considering it with all national responsibility. The concern with this is, and Netanyahu has gone to the families of the hostages in Israel and said, you know, we've agreed to the ceasefire, we've agreed to Trump's, Witkoff's ceasefire, and it's just a matter of Hamas rejecting it or not. This is one of those situations where effectively Israel and America know already that Hamas are going to say no to the ceasefire they've offered them. The ceasefire deal that they've offered in no way guarantees any kind of end to the hostility. And unless there's a guarantee of an end to the hostility, why would any one side of any ceasefire deal sign up to it? Why would Israel? Why would Hamas? You know, there has to be a shared commitment to a laying down of arms, a removing of the occupying force. Let's not forget what gets lost in this is it's not a war. This is an occupation. And in fact, Israel has a legal responsibility to look after the indigenous population of the territories that it occupies. So just be careful. This whole ceasefire chat, it's smoke and mirrors, it's theatrics. There's an aspect to it where it will be used for leverage and as a kind of crowbar for Netanyahu to justify going in harder. And in fact, there's already been the likes of Ben Gvir, you know, the chap whose eyes are out on stalks because his blood pressure is so extraordinarily high because he just hates Arabs so much. He's already said, look, let's just go in and get the job done. Let's get the job finished. I mean, we have an Israeli bunch of kind of mobsters and kind of gangsters, just kind of as much as the leader, the head of the Hamas are mobsters and gangsters. This bunch, they're just kind of like, you know, let's just go in and they're telling us everything they feel. They're telling us everything they want to do, and there's no shame and there's no fear as to the consequences. And this is all on the, so they're saying Hamas needs to agree to the ceasefire on the same day that Israel Katz, the Israeli defense minister, has said that Israel will sanction and make possible 22 more illegal settlements in the West Bank to make secure the West Bank for the Israeli nation. I mean, if there was one thing you could guarantee tugs in the opposite direction to the proposition of any kind of ceasefire, it's on the same day announcing the launch of 22 new settlements that Israel wants to implement. A bit of a spat is developing between France and Israel. Macron, whilst in Indonesia, has said that if Israel does not respond appropriately to the humanitarian situation in Gaza, then we must all harden our collective position. When are these fucking leaders going to stop telling us what they're going to do and how they're going to get more serious? And when are they going to get more serious? I'm getting to the point now where I think there is a strong and compelling argument for some kind of sort of multi-governmental, multinational military intervention in order to stop Israel. I mean, if we were functioning in a grounded, moral, humanitarian-led kind of international, you know, law-based system that everyone signed up to, there would be a strong, compelling argument now to send in, if not peacekeeping forces, then certainly forces to stop the aggression and to manage the situation. I'm beginning to think that forget, you know, all this, you know, Labour Party MPs sitting on Question Time going, yeah, two-state solution, two states. We're way past that. Israel has told us they don't want a two-state solution. So what do we do now? And part of me is beginning to wonder whether it's only going to take a military intervention from the West or from the UN or from a sort of coalition of international military teams in order to stop this, because this is just shocking and just outrageous. In response, Israel has accused France of being anti-Jewish. I mean, oh my God, do they actually think that this constant telegraphing of victimhood to the world? There's a phrase that youngsters use, Gen Zers use, it's called a pick-me boy. A pick-me boy is someone who keeps going on and on about how awful their situation is so that you'll feel sorry for him, and then there's a sort of slight confusion in that the feeling sorry for him is kind of as good as someone loving him, but actually it's really off-putting. And so the pick-me boy takes you dangerously close to ick. And I think the world has got the ick with Israel. But really, the world needs to move on fast from the ick. We need to do something about it. Rather than just having the ick, they have to get in there and do something. Because this is just, the French are anti-Jewish. You're having a joke. You're having an absolute joke. In other news, a recent study, or a study that's just been done and shared with the Guardian newspaper, has demonstrated that the carbon footprint of the first 15 months of Israel's war on Gaza is greater than the annual planet warming emissions of 100 individual countries. So we've had the equivalent of 6 Hiroshima atomic bombs dropped principally on a population and even a military wing that has barely functioning or very accurate missiles, rockets, stones, 6 atomic bombs. And Netanyahu still hasn't got the job done. I mean, even in Netanyahu's own terms, this constant, we must get rid of Hamas, he's lost. You lost the war yonks ago. And one of the reasons I think Israel and the Israeli government and supporters of the atrocities and the genocide are so losing their shit, I think then the reason why so many of you guys are being pestered by trolls, and they're not bots or, Zionists, and they're becoming even more rabid and more vocal and more kind of extreme, is because they know they've lost the argument. They know they lost the moral argument a long time ago, and only by demonstrating that in an irrational sort of splurge of nastiness can they in any way kind of seek to redeem themselves. Finland, to be fair to Finland has condemned the new settlements in the illegally occupied West Bank. I mean, imagine that. So you're asking Hamas to consider your ceasefire agreement that isn't really going to promise a ceasefire. All it's trying to get is all of the hostages back, and for Hamas to lay down their weapons, and then for us to be able to go back in and just destroy you. I mean, it's less about whether we want Hamas or don't want Hamas to run Gaza afterwards, whatever the system is that we have in place afterwards, but you can't expect them to agree to that. It's just craziness. But then on the same day, you propose or you approve 22 new settlements in the West Bank. So Finland has condemned. But condemnatory, condemning words. What is condemning? What is being concerned? Oh, we're worried. Oh, we're alarmed. Oh, this is, something, this, that, starvation is imminent. Now. It needs to happen now. And as I say, Israel has accused President Macron of undertaking, these are the words, a crusade against the Jewish state. Israel's foreign ministry said there is no humanitarian blockade. And of course, as we always knew, the absolute fucking con of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is that they can pretend that they're now supplying aid, even though that aid is rarefied, it's limited, it's inappropriate, it's being handed over in militarized sort of pens with barbed wire and the military with their guns all pointing in on them as they go in. There are reports on the ground of various Gazans, family members disappearing. Disappearances are happening at these Gazan Humanitarian Foundation aid sort of hubs, if you like. This specious and fraudulent kind of outfit that Israel and the US have cooked up, some suggesting funded by Mossad, as a means to kind of get data and sterilize, cleanse the population, wash the population like money laundering, but they're people laundering. And when Netanyahu stands up and he says, there's a way out of this. This is a prison. He can't have his cake and eat it. On the one hand, he's saying this is a prison. This is a concentration camp. He doesn't use those words, obviously. They're locked in. But of course, if Egypt just opens its borders, that's fine. I can't even believe that so many Israeli Zionists, and it comes up a lot on comments, why don't they just go to other countries? The reason that isn't being allowed to happen is as soon as those gates are open and people, because they are starving, hungry, leave, they won't go back. And there are also reports that at the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation hubs, the deal is take this aid and you'll only get this aid if you don't return to where you live in North Gaza or where you lived in the middle of Gaza. And soon you'll only get this aid if you cross the border back into Egypt. That's ethnic cleansing. It doesn't, whether you do it with a gun at the back of their head or with a box of aid in front of a desperate family guiding them to the edge of the land, however you try and spin this or cook this up, it's ethnic cleansing. And so as we go into the weekend, things to look out for are the optics, the manipulation, the gaslighting around this ceasefire. By all accounts, Hamas is consulting with other armed groups within Palestine and other community leaders in Palestine regarding the terms of it, though at the moment for them, the terms of this ceasefire do not signal an end to the killing nor the starvation of the Palestinians. Regardless of, here's the thing, even if Hamas say yes to the ceasefire, what is the West going to do about the fact that we've just had the announcement of 22 illegal settlements and the creation of a Jewish Israel state, as Israel Katz has said, in the West Bank? I mean, the rhetoric and the language is ratcheting up all the time. And yet all we're hearing from the West are the same words of concern. Starmer should be talking on this topic and Lamy should be talking on this topic every day, not once every 2 weeks to then describe a pot in which bits of F-35 bits go in and we can't actually sift through the pot and work it out. Why they should be answerable to questions about this every single day, not once every fortnight.